Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm back. I'm back with life lessons, and we're starting a new series this morning. The series for this morning is called Rise. Okay. Um, I'm I'm excited about this series. It's Rise: How to Elevate Your Mindset. Listen, here's the truth. You have been surviving with brilliance, but still questioning your worth. This is really why I wanted to do this. It's May, right? Like it's kind of like, okay, I'm going into the summer months. Have I really done what I was supposed to do? Listen, you have accomplished so much, but you feel there's something blocking your next level. All right. You feel like there's something that's still blocking you from hitting that next level. All right. Listen, you know you were made for more. All right. But the voices in your head, right? The voice in your head is getting louder than the truth that you understand in your spirit, you guys. So this month, we're rewriting the narrative. Rise is not just about a mindset series, you guys. It's about really returning back to your real self. Okay, it's about uncovering the beliefs that buried your power. It's about releasing the stories that told you to stay small. And it's about rising to the woman or man you were always meant to become. All right. So I created this series because I've sat with too many gifted people who were stuck. All right. Not because they lack purpose, not because they lack drive or momentum, but they had they had internalized these lies, right? That really sounded like logic. Lies that sounded like I'm not ready yet. I have to prove myself. I don't have the money, right? I'm too much or not enough, right? Listen, my goal is for those narratives in your head to end today. All right. So through the stopping out framework, or the stop it framework, right? We're going to walk through 3 powerful weeks, right? Because I took off last week, so I think I'm back, right? So we're going to walk through 3 powerful weeks. So this week we're talking about recognizing and inspire. To recognize and inspire, the R and the I in rise, right? In all this week, we're going to be naming those limited beliefs and planting new truths, you guys. Are you ready for that? If you ready for that, put a heart in the chat. All right. This isn't just about motivation, it's truly about strategy. This isn't fluff, it's information. And if you're tired of shrinking, really doubting or second guessing or even spinning like on this hamster wheel, listen, this series is for you. And if you're ready to believe again, trust yourself and move with purpose, then it is time to rise, you guys. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Mindset Reset Monday, right? And today's title is The Origin of the Inner Critic, right? The origin of the inner critic. Who told you that, right? Who told you these lies about who you are, right? What you can do and what you can have in this thing called life. Like, who told you that, right? Here's my why for today's session, all right? The origin of your inner critic. Because too many people, right? Too many powerful, talented, I don't know, generous, kind people, right? Confuse survival with self worth, okay? Really confuse survival with self-worth. So this lesson really birthed out of watching gifted women and men really just shrink, not because they lack purpose, but truly because they inherited a script of unworthiness. All right. And today we locate that script and we're going to begin to rewrite it. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm back. I'm feeling good this morning. I'm feeling good this morning. Listen, the disclaimer for today is that this session will help you identify where your self-perception started to fracture. Listen, but awareness is only the beginning. We know that, right? If you want to move from pain to power, you really need the support and a space to rewrite this narrative. So again, that is what Project Life is created for. So I'm going to be asking you to engage this month, right? Engage in this series. Talk to me, ask questions, DM me, let me know, right, what is going on in your life. So good morning. It is Mindset Reset Monday. So let's begin our breath, right? We're going to inhale truth, right? The truth about who we are. All right. Inhale truth. And then we're gonna exhale tension this morning. Any tension that is that you feel, right? We just came off of a great Mother's Day weekend. So happy Mother's Day to all of the members in the group. If you're on the replay, happy Mother's Day to you. All right, this is your space, no pressure, just your presence. So we're gonna inhale again, truth, the truth about who we are, and then we're going to exhale. All right, tension. Okay. And then we're going to feel our body. So we're just going to scan our feet on the floor. All right, our legs, our bodies, just bring compassion. Remember, this is the vessel that's carrying us throughout this thing called life, right? So it's the vessel that we're using to love on ourselves, right? To interact with others. It's the brain is there to help us focus, right? And really energize or become emotionally connected to the things we do. Okay, so up our legs, our bones. I always like to say I charge my bones, right? Just bringing some love and light to my bones, sitting, on your butt. So feeling that, all right, your back, your spine, just feeling your spine just align itself, right? You're getting taller if you're sitting up. Okay, if you're laying down, just wiggling your toes. All right, your rib cage, feeling those bones kind of, support all of these organs, your lungs, your heart, right? So bringing some love and some compassion to those and some thank yous to that. Okay, our heart space, just loving on ourselves this morning. I love you, right? Just whisper that gently to ourselves, right? I forgive you. I love you, right? And then up our necks, down our shoulders, just feeling that weight come off our shoulders, you guys. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Down our arms, out our hands, activating our hands so we can do what? So we can do something with them today, something that we've been wanting to do. Let's activate that. All right, up our necks, just yeah, activating our throat chakra, right? Releasing any blocks. If it's too much energy there, just balancing that. Coming up our face, so our chin, our tongue, right? Our lips, nose, eyes, our brain, activating our brain this morning. All right. Our head, all right, our crown chakra, and then just our biggest organ, just feeling the space around us. You guys, good morning, good morning. Drop a word in the chat. Drop a word in the chat. Let me know, how are you feeling on this Mindset Reset Monday. Okay. How are you feeling this morning? I feel good to be back. I feel good to be back. A lot of things moving. I just really had to take off last week, but I didn't want you guys to take off. So those replays, I was watching those with you guys right before and kind of after I would watch, and I'm like, wow, the life lesson, the origin of what I wanted to do honestly was like a 15, 10 minute, just kind of pop in. But when I started to do them, I started to realize, okay, I do like the mechanism of teaching, and I do feel like there's a space for this to happen. And so life lessons was birthed out of that. But I want to ask you guys, did you see the growth from day one or week one to which was the lemon series? And we've been through three series. We're on the fourth series now. Did you see any growth in me? Huh? Did you see any growth? All right, I did. I did. And I hope that you saw some growth in yourself if you followed along. If you want those series again, you can DM me to get some information about the project, which is Project Life, our love of self, our interactions, and our focus and our energy, right? That is what this project is here to help us to attain, right? This thing called life. So who is today's session for though? Today's session is for you if you've been stuck in a loop of negative self-talk, right? That sounds like truth. Okay. uh it's for you if you doubt yourself even when others have affirmed you. I always say, like, people can affirm you, but if you can't believe it, right? Yeah, I mean, you have to believe the thing that the person is saying about you. So although we want people to say we're smart, we want people to say that they love us and they forgive us, listen, if you don't believe it, right? It's falling on mute ears. All right. So if you doubt yourself, even when others affirm you, listen, you've achieved a lot. If you've achieved a lot, but you still feel not enough at your core, right? In this deep inside, you have all of the material things, you checked all the boxes, but you're still feeling like, you know what? I'm still feeling like I'm not enough. And then guess what? If this this is for you if you're ready to stop living from your womb, right, and start living from your wisdom. I love that. I love the fact that we get a choice in this thing called life to either live from the womb or live from our wise person, and I always do this sneaky thing where I have an avid, my middle name is Arlexi, and so I would sometimes be like, well, what would our Lexi do? Right? That's my wisdom, right? Because Sheila has her shenanigans, right? I mean, I just really do. I have a lot of shenanigans and I have a lot of wounds. And so I can act from these wounds or I can act from my wise self. So this is for you if you're ready to stop living from those wounds and really start living from your wise self. So good morning. Good morning. Here's our guiding quote for this morning. Listen, your inner critic is the child version of you trying to stay safe. All right. You don't need to silence him or her. You just need to lead that part of you, right? You need to learn how to lead that part of you. Again, the inner critic is is a child version of you trying to keep you safe. Listen, you don't need to silence him or her. You just need to learn how to lead them, okay? Lead them. If that hits you, put a heart in the chat for me because I do think that we talk about the inner critic on Friday, but this whole series today is about the stories about our inner critic or the origin of our inner critic and where did this really come from? All right, listen, here's the focus. Most people don't ask, right? Or don't question their self doubt at all, right? We don't even question our self doubt. They just believe it because it sounds like truth. But today's session, right, or today's lesson really invites us to stop and really ask, where did that voice come from? Where did that belief come from? And is it even mine? Did somebody give me that? And the person that gave me that, how did they really feel about me at the time that I believed this thing? What's coming up in my spirit is, I am a granddaughter, right? I'm a granddaughter, but I feel like my grandparents is my parents, okay? And my grandparents had children. They had 8, right? And then so when I came along, the babies were still there. So you had my uncle, two of my aunts, and my uncle, right? Now they are my grandparents' kids, right? And I am the adopted one, right? But I said that I was the favorite. I was the favorite child of my grandmother, right? She's not my grandmother. I mean, she's not my mother, but I never felt like a motherless child because I had my grandparents. What that caused was a strife between the babies, my aunt and my uncle and me. All right. And here I'm giving this because I want you to think about this. When I say, where did that voice come from and isn't even mine, growing up in that environment where I had an aunt and an uncle, and they had to share their mom with me, um, and I had cousins that they had to share their moms with me, right? A lot of how I saw myself, right, was really predicated on the things that they said about me. And when I go back and look, right, what was our dynamics when they said that, right? So I know that it just irked my auntie that my grandmother and my grandfather kind of babied me. So she was like this voice, this negative voice that would just say stuff that just was so hurtful or just to do hurtful things, right? Now when I go back and I say, where did this voice come from, or is it even mine? The next question is, where was the origin of that? Like a lot of the way that I had saw myself coming up or trying to outrun was from, these situations that were created out of, lack, out of, anger, out of out of immaturity. I think that's the best way I can say it. So I want you to think about that. Where did this voice come from and is it even mine? And when I started thinking about how I see myself, was it a dynamic where the people who were telling me about me, where were they at in their lives? Were they, you know, yeah, have they matured? Have they developed a sense of worth? Have they developed a sense of value? And if they hadn't, why would I think that they then could make that for me? right? Or could do that for me. All right, listen, the inner critic, that inner critic, it might sound like you, right? But it was formed by somebody else, right? It was formed by somebody else, and this is what I want you to know: that somebody else could have been a caregiver who criticized more than they celebrated you, right? A faith message that shamed you instead of shaped you, okay? And a culture, you guys, that rewarded performance over your presence, okay? And this is so important for us to know. So when left unchecked, when left unexplored, right? When left unrecognized, that's what that R is, right? Though these messages can secretly or sophisticatedly become our identity. All right. And if you start calling and if you start calling fear wisdom and shrinking humility, this can become our identity when we start to call fear wisdom, right? Because we're listening to this voice and we're saying that we're being wise, or we're, being strategic with our life, when really no, it's an inner critic in you that's actually questioning, can you do the thing that you desire to do? Okay. All right. So yeah, I want you to know that you were not born to doubt yourself. All right. That belief was given to you in essence, right? You were not born to doubt yourself. That belief was given to you, which means, right, you can give it back. So today is not about it's not just about awareness, it's about ownership. Okay. And this whole week is about ownership. You get to decide which beliefs shape your story moving forward. Okay. You get to decide which beliefs shape your story moving forward. If that makes sense, put a one in the chat for me. Okay. Listen, here's a real life example of what this looks like. I had a client that said to me, I've been hearing you're too much since I was 7 years old. Okay. I had a client that said to me that she had been hearing that she is too much since she was 7 years old. Listen, she didn't realize that her adult hesitation to speak up in meetings, to set boundaries in love, right, was the voice of a child with the voice of a child still trying to what, play small, right, and prove that she's not doing enough, or trying to be enough to stay safe. All right, when we traced it back, she wasn't scared, you guys. She was stuck in a story that she never chose. It was given to her. People told her, you think you too much, right? You doing too much. And as she started to develop, that became what? Her mechanism in how she started to move. Listen, limiting beliefs feel true because they're familiar. Okay, they're familiar, not because they're accurate. Our limiting beliefs are not accurate, you guys, but they feel familiar, right? They feel true because they're familiar. They're one of the longest stories that's been with you. So most of your self doubt, it didn't begin with the decision. It began in with the wound, you guys. And this lesson will help you to shift from identifying this inner critic to really witnessing it with compassion and choice. All right. Because here's the truth: you were not born doubting yourself. This is about a line. You wasn't born doubting yourself. That belief was handed to you by fear, by pain, by people who didn't know how to even love fully. You guys, hear me when I say that. All right. My aunt, who I love 100% now, she like, we've gotten through all of that. But when she was my babysitter, right? Listen, she didn't know how to love fully. All right. She was pained, right? She was in fear, right? And so I want you to know that the beliefs that were handed to you by fear, by pain, and by people who really didn't know how to love you fully, all right, or love fully. So today we want to recognize that story so that we can rewrite it. So we can rewrite it. So what I want you to do is drop rewrite. Like, I know, um how do I want to say this? I have worked with thousands of people, okay, thousands of people, and when I work with them, it's very interesting how these stories of other people have been so instead in what is that stitched right in who they think they are. And a big part of our work together is unbraiding those narratives that came from their mom or the lack of their mom, their dad or the lack of their dad, right? A community, a teacher, something that somebody told them that solidified their identity. All right. And so this is so important for you to really step and think, okay, where did I get my identity from? Where did I get this belief from? What and I want you to ask yourself this is your heart check-in. What belief about yourself have you been carrying for so long, okay, that you mistake it for truth? What belief about yourself have you been carrying for so long that you mistake it for truth? And then I want you to ask yourself, where did it come from? Right? And does it still belong to you? Does it still belong to you? Because here's the truth. The origin of your inner critic, we have to recognize it, right? And then we have to be inspired to do something different. So here's some powerful insights that I want you to know. All right, listen, one, we've talked about this. The inner critic is often a composite voice, right? It's a voice of, it's not just like one person's voice, it's a voice of the authority figures, your past partners, religious conditioning, right? And societal standards. And it's like a mixing pot of that, right? It's like a whole big mirage of people who sounded similar that created this understanding of who you are, right? Listen, we have to start to depersonalize that voice and begin to dismantle it. All right, because it's not just one person. Guess what? When my auntie said that, then guess what? Somebody else came and said something similar to that to me, right? And then somebody else came and said something similar to that. And all of those collective voices, I started to believe was true about me. All right. And I had to start depersonalizing those voices in my head, like questioning where did that come from and what was the origin of that? Like I can know who said something to me that made me feel a way. And then along my life, right, how did that get supported? All right. Number two, the critic was once a protector. All right. In survival, this voice tried to keep you safe by avoiding risk, attention, and vulnerability. But what once protected you, right, is now preventing you. What does that look like? Um, so in a sense, y'all remember that song? I don't know, cry, baby, cry, I put your hands on your hip, let your backbone slip. I'll shake it to the east. Y'all remember that song? All right. So this would be the song that my aunt and uncle would tease me with, right? So I was considered a crybaby. All right. So I'm finna tell you what this looks like. So you cry too much. You always crying. So when I became like a teenager, because now I'm a teenager and like a young woman, that voice said, "Don't cry. Don't cry about that. Don't get emotional about that," right? Now the voice is protecting me from what? Because when I cried before, I got teased, I got bullied, I got rejected in some sense, right? There was some resistance there that was very painful for me to experience as a young person, right? So now, when I became a teenager and the emotion came up to want to cry, or I became a young woman and the emotion came up to want to cry, guess what? That critic now, that critical voice came in and now it's protecting me. Don't cry about that, right? Right? Because guess what? It wanted me to avoid pain, right? It wanted me to avoid the risk, the rejection that I felt, you know, as a 5 or 6 year old. If that makes sense, put a two in the chat for me, right? As like a 5 or 6 year old, right? And so I want you to know that this inner critic or this critic, it once protected me. But guess what? Me not crying, me not connecting to my emotions by the time I was 29, and I see this with a lot of my clients as well, I was numb, right? It was so much numbness, it was so much suppressed, it was so many emotions that I hadn't even allowed myself to feel, right? that it literally started to come out in headaches, right? Issues with my health, right? Like because it had to suppress it. I mean, it had to manifest itself. So because my voice was saying, "Hey, don't feel that. Walk away. Don't cry. Don't let them see you do that." And it was saying that to protect me, right? There was a point in my life where I wanted to get back into my emotions. So now that voice was no longer protecting me; it was preventing me. It was preventing me from what? Living in the present moment, feeling the emotions that I needed to feel, getting the messages that I needed to get. So although it served a purpose in my teenage years and my early 20s, when it was time for me to grow and heal, I needed to feel, right? I needed to cry. I needed to be in a relationship with this emotion. And now this critic wasn't a protector anymore. It was preventing me. If that makes sense, put it two in the chat. All right. Listen, I want you to know that the brain is biased towards negativity. This is just a survival mechanism. All right. Neuroscience has confirmed that the brain remembers threat to avoid future pain. All right. So your inner critic is a survival echo, you guys. It's not spiritual truth. All right. So we use it to really reduce self judgment. To we use it, yeah, to reduce self judgment. Okay. So this negative bias that we have is truly there for survival. All right. It's there as a way so that we can avoid pain, which is why it's so important when we are stepping out of trauma, into this healing space and into expansion, that we are present. That this is why I say we got to get in the manual seat. You got to become the driver in a sense, like you're learning how to drive a stick shift car, right? Like you have certain years that you're going into and you're noticing, right? And you need that because the brain is it's biased to negativity. So it's going to think the worst case scenario. Okay. But just because it's thinking the worst case scenario doesn't mean that that's going to happen. It doesn't mean that that is true. All right. And that's when you, as your a grown adult self, come in and say, yep, that could happen, but this could happen and this could happen. Or this could be a great experience, or this is where we start to challenge it. Okay, if that makes sense, put a one in the chat. Another thing I want you to know is that the inner critic thrives in silence. All right. So when you don't have the language for what's happening in your life, the critic, right, will fill in the spaces. All right. So I really want you to know a big part of Project Life is to really give you language. Okay. Language is so important. Getting up and reading a book, reading a blog, reading any material that is is geared towards your goal is so healthy, right? Even reading the captions uh, for the life lessons, because I sometimes get very descriptive in those, and then I'm going to start putting out life lenses that really summarize this because language is so important to our development, right? And the inner critic really thrives on silence, right? So when you don't have the language for what's happening, that inner critic will automatically come in and fill the gap. All right. Another thing is that unhealed narratives create loops, you guys. Unhealed narratives create loops. So one negative belief one negative belief like I'm hard to love can create a loop, which we're going to talk more about in patterns, a loop of behaviors, a loop of energy, and a loop in relationship patterns, right? That will confirm what? That it's hard to love you, right? If you've heard that it's hard to love me, right? Or you're just difficult to love, or you just expect a lot, guess what? And you start to believe that, guess what? Voices get louder. Guess what? Behaviors get louder. Guess what? Energetically, you start to emit and attract things to support that belief. All right. This is truth of our emotional bias. All right. Our emotional evidence bias. We will go out and search for the thing we believe. All right. And so we have to start creating different patterns that are not around our wound, you guys, that are truly around the wise person that you are. That you are, okay? Listen, because you have to learn how to replace the story. I mean, you have to know that replacing the story requires, let me say it like this. I need you to know that to do any of this that we're talking about in life lessons or Project Life, um, it requires you to be emotionally safe or to feel emotionally safe. Okay. So I want you to hear me when I say this. People don't change stories just because they have new information. If that's the case, right, a lot of us would hear new information and just change. All right. People change when they feel safe enough to believe in something better. I'm going to say that again. We don't change because we get new information. All right. We really start to change when we feel safe enough to believe that we can accomplish something better, when we believe that something better is attainable, when we feel safe enough in that. All right. I want you to understand that life, that because we are in survival mode, because there's trauma, our brain is wired for safety. All right. And safety looks like um, what I already know, even if I'm uncomfortable with it, even if I'm not happy with it, even if it's something that um, I don't desire, because my brain knows it, it's safe. And because the thing I desire I don't know, that's unsafe. And in my body, in my mind, and this critic is going to come up and say everything to me to get me from stop doing that thing. So a big part of the project too, in these series, is to help you to get safe, to feel safe with the changes that you want to make. All right. And another thing that we can do is that you can really start to disagree with your inner critic lovingly. And when you start to disagree with it in this loving, compassionate way, it's in a sense letting it know, thank you. Thank you so much for providing me with that insight. Thank you so much for protecting me. But I'm safe and I'm okay. All right. Listen, I want you to know that you don't have to fight this inner voice. All right. It's not about fighting it. Okay. You can listen, you can learn, and then you can choose to respond to it differently. And that's really what life is going to be about with our family, with our friends, in our relationships with our kids. The whole goal is to listen, to learn, and to learn how to respond differently, especially if you come from broken systems, especially if you come from um, systems that wasn't fully matured, right, or fully put in place. All right, right, you were taught to survive, you was taught to defend, you was taught to protect yourself, right? But we know that there is a scripture in the Bible that says one body, one mind, one God, right? And the whole goal is, how can I embrace everybody, right? How can I embrace you as me? How can I start to see you as I see myself? That's the whole oneness of life. And when I'm in survival, it's very hard for me to have compassion for you. It's very hard for me to have compassion for me, right? It's very hard for, and that's where this life thing comes in. It's very hard for me to love on myself, to interact with others, to really focus on things that are going to help me to evolve in life and to really manage these emotions, right? When I'm always in safety mode or I'm always in defense. And that's because you don't feel safe. All right. And so you have to start to really uh, tell yourself that you're safe, get in communities where you feel safe and seen and things like that so you can start that thawing process. All right. And if you want more information about that, you can just DM me. Here's the thing about it: your inner critic was formed to protect you, but it's often limiting you today. All right. It was formed to protect you, but it's limiting you today. This voice didn't start with you, you guys. It was learned through repetition, modeled by your caregivers, your teachers, and a big part of our culture. All right. You are not broken. You are not broken. You are patterned. Okay. You are not broken. You are patterned. And the patterns can be repatterned. All right. The reason I say you not broken is because you learned how to behave the way you behave from a caregiver, from a teacher, and from a culture. So you're patterned. Okay. What's coming up in my spirit is y'all, you remember that jar, it was about a flea, and a flea could jump like 12 feet or whatever, right? And so they put the flea in a jar, and when they put the flea in a jar, the flea kept hitting the lid of the jar. So the flea learned that it couldn't jump 12 feet anymore. It only could jump 8 feet. But when the flea had offspring, guess how tall the offspring jumped? 8 feet, no taller than 8 feet, right? Now, was that flea who could jump 8 feet? Is that flea broken? No, no, that flea wasn't broken. The flea was patterned. And who told the flea that he could only jump 8 feet? Right, the mother, the guardian, right? Because in her attempts to jump her 12 feet, she got hit, she got hit, she got hit, and so she limited what the flea could actually do. Now that flea then went on to teach its flea that it could only jump right a certain amount, but that doesn't mean that you're broken. That's my point. It just means that you're patterned. So again, listen, you're not broken, you're patterned, right? And patterns can be repatterned, meaning there is neuroplasticity. You can change how you think about things. Okay, listen, until you recognize that the stories behind your belief, until you recognize the stories behind your beliefs, you'll keep trying to heal something that was never yours to carry. Yeah, you'll keep trying to heal something that was never yours to carry. All right, listen, I had one of my clients who said, I realized I wasn't afraid to fail. I was afraid to really disappoint my father, even though he been gone for 10 years, right? Even though they wasn't in a relationship for 10 years, right? She was fearful of disappointing him. Research has showed, or according to clinical studies, 80% of our core beliefs was really shaped by the age of 7, and often unconsciously. All right. So when unexamined, I want you to know that our beliefs become silent scripts for how we behave as adults. All right. If your inner critic, what if your inner critic isn't true? It's just memory. It's just your memory, right? Would you be willing to update that voice in your head? I want you to ask yourself that. What if this inner critic, what if this voice that has been guiding me is not even my truth? It is truly my memory. It's just memories of stuff I've heard, songs I've heard, things I've heard from my community, my parents, the church, and things like that, that's really replaying itself. Would you be willing to update that voice in your head? All right. I really want to encourage you to say yes, right? But I want you to drop a yes in the chat, though. Drop a yes in the chat if you're willing to really rewrite, okay, that old narrative. We know that the S in stop is for stories, all right? So this session is really about rewriting the earliest emotional narratives that really taught you who you had to be in order to belong, in order to succeed, and in order to survive. All right. Um, here's the truth though, we don't examine our stories. We don't typically examine our stories. All right. What we have to do is we have to start locating the belief. Um, we have to start locating the belief, um, locate the belief where who planted it there, right? And decide if that belief still belongs, you guys. If that belief still belongs. All right. Um, and again, I think it goes back to language. If if I don't know how to rewrite this script, if I don't know how to rewrite my story, then it's very hard for me to release the old story. And this is why we have mentors. This is why it's so important for us to, understand and model individuals, or have people that we look up to so that they can kind of be the mold for our story. I had a mentor coming up from my 19s up until even now, like it's older women that I'm like, yeah, I want that, like I want to be independent like that. I want to have this, right? Even, and I don't have the experience of that, but I feel like they bring that into life for me. And so if you don't have a mentor, somebody that you're looking to really help to shape this new story, right? It's going to be very challenging. So if you want help with that, make sure you DM me. I have 7 essential truths though that I do want you to know about recognizing and inspiring, which is the R and the I um in rise. All right. Listen, you didn't create the story. I need you to understand this. You didn't create the story, you inherited it. Okay. So the belief that you're too much, that you're not enough, that it's too late, that love is hard, all right, or that you're hard to love, is likely come from a childhood wound, all right, a culture, a religion, a relationship. And I want you to know that it's not your true self. All right, right? It's not your true self. It may come up when a pain point is being pushed, like, why do I keep doubting myself, or why am I not doing enough? All right, because there's a strong desire that you really want to be trusted by other people, or you really want uh, trust, or you really want to be seen. All right. Another thing is that beliefs feel safe, but they are not true. All right. Beliefs feel safe, but they are not true. Okay. We cling to old beliefs because they're familiar, but we cling to old beliefs because they're familiar, not because they serve you. All right. Your brain will prioritize from familiarity over freedom. It will prioritize familiarity over over um desire, happiness, fulfillment. All right, until you intentionally choose otherwise. All right. Every belief has a root. Okay, so your inner critic isn't random, right? It's tied to a story that probably you have never questioned, and I want you to give yourself permission after this session to question it. All right, so when you trace it back, you will realize that this really wasn't my story to begin with. Maybe this was my mama's story. Maybe this was my grandmother's story. Maybe this was something that somebody wanted for their life, and then they used me as a vessel to vicariously live their life through. I see a lot of relationships today, um, where people are using people to vicariously live and experience their life through. If that's marriage, if that's whatever this idea I have of that I want my life to be, I'm going to insert you here so you can help me to experience this thing. And it's very self serving, right? And I see it in friendships, I see it in relationships, I see it in parenting, where parents are using their kids to vicariously live through or create an image for themselves. And it's just very I think a word is would say, yes, um it's emotionally unhealthy. All right. It's emotionally unhealthy. So I want you to know that again, your inner critic is not random. It's tied to a story that you've never questioned. All right. So I want you to trace it, right, and recognize that this wasn't yours to begin with. All right. Another thing is that the inner critic is loudest before your breakthrough. All right. So it's not proof that you're wrong. It's not proof that you're wrong. It's proof that you're close to a shift. So when this voice gets loudest, when you start feeling the most doubt, when you start to feel the most emotional, when you start to feel the most overwhelmed, a lot of times it's not proof that something is going wrong, you guys. It is proof that you are closer to the shift that you've been desiring, and you may just need a person to hold space for you and remind you of the person that God created you to be. All right. All right, listen, your beliefs shape your energy. Okay, your beliefs shape your energy. So, a belief like I'm not ready will lead to procrastination, it will lead to emotional fatigue, and it will lead to shame. So, you have to learn how to shift your beliefs, right, to shift the entire atmosphere. All right, so something like I'm tired of stopping and starting is creating an atmosphere or a culture or a way of living, right? And we really want to change that to a desired state, like I want momentum that lasts. I'm activating, you know I'm activating readiness in me, right? So we want to start to speak and affirm, because it's really creating, a lot of times this is creating um an environment that in itself energetically could be hard to get through. All right. uh Last two things, you can't replace what you haven't recognized. I think Jay-Z said it, you heard me say this before, you can't heal what you won't reveal, right? So you can't shift a belief still that you're still calling your personality. So here's the thing, this week is not about judgment, it's not about judging you, it's not about you judging you or judging other people. It's really about just naming what no longer is in alignment with um yeah, with the person that you're becoming, right? um yeah, because when you are able to really let that prune that old part of you, we allow space for new things to grow. All right. And then the last thing is that your new story is already within you. I want you to know that your new story is already in you. You don't need to create a new identity. Okay. It's not about you creating this new person. It's not about that. It's about you returning back, right? It's about you returning to the one that has been buried under the survival. I give the analogy of, if you went to, I don't know, grow a tree, right? And the soil wasn't right, it was rocks down there, whatever, right? You're not growing a new tree. What you're going to do is you're going to go and take the stones out. You're going to go and like cut the things um that's not serving it. You're going to water it, right, so it can continue to what, grow and become the apple tree that it always has been. And a lot of times we just have been stunted in our growth, and so we want to return back to that part of us where we can grow and flourish, and so we can what, harvest the thing that we we have, that fruit that we have to give, all right, to experience in this thing called life. All right, if that makes sense, put a two in the chat for me. All right. Listen, our biblical wisdom today, um, we have John 8 and 32. Okay, listen. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will what? Set you free, make you free. All right. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. Okay, listen. Most of us are not trapped by lack, we're trapped by lies. All right. Lies that we have inherited, lies that we have rehearsed, lies that told us who we are not, right? But truth, listen, truth doesn't just inform us, it frees us, right? It doesn't just inform us, it frees us. Replacing limiting beliefs start with recognizing what's false, all right? And consciously choosing what's true. So replacing limiting beliefs actually starts by recognizing what's false and consciously choosing what's true. All right. Truth doesn't always feel familiar. Guess what? It don't even always feel safe. It doesn't always feel good. All right. But it always, always, always is attached to some level of freedom. All right. I think that we have so much fear around accepting what's true, if it's how we feel in our bodies, if it's how we feel in a relationship, if it's how we feel, um, just in how we feel, we so are not, we so don't want to face that truth that we are willing to believe a lie, all right? And then when the truth comes up or comes out, we're so angry at the person or the system that created or perpetuated the lie. But the reality of it is that you knew, you felt it in your spirit, you knew it in your heart, you knew, and you lied to yourself before any system could lie to you. You lied to yourself before anything could lie to you because you knew, but you didn't want to accept it, right? And so for years and years and years, you have lived under knowing a lie. You have lived accepting a lie, hoping that one day that this lie, this feeling would change, this thing would change, and it's not. And then when the truth then is revealed, you get mad at the system. You get mad at the person that brought it to you, the person that cultivated. But the truth is that you knew the truth. Okay. So here again, John 8:32. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And a lot of times, the truth that you are mad about and about want to fight somebody about or whatever it is the very place and the very freedom, the very thing you're praying for is on the other side of accepting that this thing is true. Maybe I made a wrong decision. Maybe I chose the wrong job. Maybe I didn't save the money the way I should have. Maybe I could have had this, whatever that is, okay? Whatever that is, right? This scripture is telling you that you will know the truth. You will know the truth, right? And then that truth will make you free. One, you will know the truth. So a lot of us know the truth. Do we have the courage to live in it? Are we ready to accept it? See, this is a whole nother conversation. All right. So I want you to know this, that this isn't just about biblical truths. It's about personal truths, you guys. The God in you is trying to speak louder than your inner critic. All right. But for many years, guess what? The inner dialogue has shaped, uh, is the inner dialogue is still shaped by childhood experiences, religious guilt, cultural perfectionism, survival conditions, people pleasing, um, coping, whatever, right? The truth that sets you free isn't always new information. The truth that sets you free is not always new information. It's a divine remembering of who you already. Um, it's a divine reminder of who you already were beneath the lies. And this is how you know it's a lie. This is how you know because there's a truth that lives in you. There's a line path that lives in you. And every time you choose to just say that's A, the goal is to hit all the A's in life. A. But anytime you choose to go B, in line with B, align with B, align with B, you're misaligned and it's a part of your spirit that knows that. Now, whatever the reason why you're misaligning at B, again, let me get this analogy so you know. So if the goal is to collect all the A's in life, because you're an A, and alignment would be to go out and collect all the A's from the people, places, things, and experiences to keep you in alignment. And that's not always going to be easy, right? But just say that B came along and seemed easier. So as an A, you go and you connect with the B in your person, place, experience, situation, whatever that B is, you connect with it. At that point, you know that you are misaligned, but because there is a desire or something that you want faster, you don't want to feel the pain, a protective mechanism, whatever that is making you choose B. Okay. Listen, the truth will set you free isn't always new information. It's something that it's a divine remembering, like all right. When you recognize the beliefs that say that you are not enough and you start to replace it with I was created with purpose, right? That's not mindset work, you guys. That is spiritual freedom. All right. The truth that sets you free will stop aligning with your fears and it will start aligning with that voice, with that God voice inside of you. All right. It will start aligning with your dreams, your purpose, the things that you desire. And again, it's not easy. but you would learn how to do it with ease. All right. Right. It's not easy, but you can learn how to do it with ease. So here's what my question. What truth about your identity are you fully ready to believe, even if you even if your past doesn't reflect it yet, or even if your past doesn't reflect it yet. So what truth about your identity are you ready to believe, even if your past doesn't reflect it? Meaning, what truth are you ready to believe even though you haven't experienced it? All right. All right. Our promise verse for today is Psalms 139, 14. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. Again, this isn't just, you know, poetry, you guys, or a poetic verse, right? It's permission. It's permission. You are not flawed. You were formed intentionally. All right. So this verse is your reminder that your worth is not up for negotiation anymore. All right. It's not up for negotiation anymore. All right. It was written into your design that you are beautifully and wonderfully made. So I need you to say it out loud. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Okay, not only because you always feel it, not because you will always feel this, right, but because you know it's true. All right, because you always will know that this is true. So let this be the replacement for any belief of like, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, that whispers up in your mind. Insert, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. All right. And even if you don't believe it, say it enough, just say it enough, just say it enough, right? Until you start to believe it, because it is true. It is true. All right. So this verse really helps you to reclaim your identity. It doesn't just say that you were created, it says you were created what? With wonder. All right. Here's the part that many people forget, that the inner critic often forms when someone forgets. All right, when someone has forgotten what? Their wonder, their beauty. All right. And when they are told to be quiet, to be less, to earn love, all of these things make them forget their wonder. So now, as adults, you don't see your worth, okay, unless you perform for it. And that is a learned behavior. And I want to say that Psalms 139 and 14 reminds you that you were never designed to prove your worth. You were never designed to prove your worth, and you were never designed to prove your worth. You were designed to know it. That's why I say babies cry. If you see a baby is like, listen, I deserve to eat, feed me. I deserve this diaper to be on my butt. Change me. I deserve your attention. I'm going to cry for it. I'm going to scream for it. I'm going to holler for it. I'm going to make you do that. Why? Because the baby knows, right? Until you start to train the baby that I'm not. No, 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 no. You start to train the baby, and then the baby starts to self-soothe and do those things. But a baby come out and it knows that it deserves to eat. It knows that it deserves to be cared for. All right. And it doesn't, like, it comes out, and you know it accepts attention, right? It's just a baby. All right. And then that baby grows and patterns develop and we become adults, and things change. All right. So here's the point: you were never designed to prove your worth, you were designed to know it. All right. So this verse becomes the antidote to any type of self-rejection that you've been facing, right? It's not a lofty, like, this is not about lofty spirituality at all. It's really about identity repairment, you guys. Um, really going back and understanding who you are as an individual, as this divine being having a human experience. So this verse really accepts and invites you to accept your design and to not apologize for who you are becoming. All right. So these scripts, when made practical and internal, they do exactly what the inner critic could never do. Okay. Listen, they call you home to yourself, all right? And they say that there's nothing wrong with you. You've just been listening to the wrong voice, all right? And so through this whole stopping now methodology, you really get to retrain that this week, all right? Are you ready? Are you ready to retrain that? All right, so let's put this into action, you guys. Put a heart in the chat if you're ready to retrain that. All right, let's put this into action. All right, so our action steps for this week is I want you to identify one self limiting belief. All right, I want you to trace it. I want you to trace it back. So identify a limiting belief, yes, you carried for years. I want you to trace it back. Who gave this to you? Where did you hear it at first? All right. And then I want you to replace it with a belief rooted in truth. And again, these where do we get those from? Biblical wisdom, things like that. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Everything is working for my good, right? Even if you didn't have that experience, we have to start believing it. All right. And we have to do something to start believing it. Our journal prompt for today is what beliefs have you inherited that no longer serves who you're becoming? All right. What beliefs have you inherited that no longer serving the person that you're becoming? And then our affirmation. We know that affirmations, again, if you don't believe them, right, is very hard to do. But the goal is to really take the language. All right, take the language. I am not the story that I was given. I am the truth that I am becoming. All right, I am not the story that I was given. I am the truth that I'm becoming. Right, and you have the power to really rewrite that who you're becoming. Matter of fact, it's already wrote, so you can just kind of change, right? Change the author, all right, the author of your life. All right, and then our daily intention today. I will be aware of the voice in my head and decide whether it's worth keeping. Listen, I will become aware of the voice in my head and decide if it's worth keeping. And remember, it's not just going to go away tomorrow, but when I become aware of it, I can decide, okay, is this from my wounded self or is this from my wise person? All right. And then our bonus challenge for today is listen, catch your inner critic in action today. When it speaks, pause and say, is this true? Right? Is this true? Or is it just a repetition? Yeah, just repetition. All right. And then we always know that I'm going to do that call and that challenge and that charge. All right. So here's my call to you today. I'm calling, I'm asking you, what belief are you ready? What belief are you questioning today? Okay. What belief are you questioning today? The challenge that you have is listen, catch and challenge one limiting belief in real time today. And then the charge for you is to go shape your life, all right, with truth, not just memory. Not just memory, you guys. Listen, if this hit home, imagine how powerful, right, it'll be to walk in this type of support and just showing up for yourself every day. All right. I Yeah, I want you to know that if this session really resonated with you and you are walking away with some insight, you already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat for me. Drop a fire in the chat and let's celebrate our growth together, you guys. You already know that if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. Listen, I love you. I love you. I love you. And I'll see you tomorrow for Transformational Tuesday. We're talking about what makes you shrink, fear, patterns, in action. Okay. What makes you shrink? Okay. These fear patterns in action. I love you. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow for that life lesson, you guys. Till later.